Our children would never again have the privilege of hearing my dad's unique giggle laugh or looking into his soft blue eyes. I would never be able to go herding sheep with Grandpa or walk to the stream with Grandma in the darks. That December, we decided to sell the farm. Welcome to my podcast. Most of you will know that I'm a ex-South African, not an ex-South African, that I'm a journalist, ex-journalist, South African, that I live here in Amsterdam. I've retired, I am retired, but I still keep myself very much busy with South Africa. I am compelled to do so because I am a South African and I cannot help myself but being engaged and being involved in South Africa. I do a lot of interviews on this program of mine with South Africans, and I try to stay informed as to what is happening. When you're away from home, and I've been away from home for a long time, and when you have a bond with the country, then sometimes watching South Africa from afar can be a painful experience. And I want to share one of those moments with you. I recently, 2 days ago, received a WhatsApp from Ernst Roets from Lex Libertas. I think Ernst was probably just back from the United States of America. I have interviewed Ernst before, interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. And he sent me a message to ask me whether I've received the Truth Be Told report that he had presented in the United States of America. I told him I did not receive the report, and he was kind enough to send me the report via WhatsApp. And then you sit in your house in Amsterdam, 12,000 kilometers away from South Africa. You somehow you feel the pain of the country. You open this report, Truth Be Told, it's called. It's a campaign report issued by Lex Libertas. It says here compiled and edited by Marie-Louise de Nischen. I'm not sure if I say her name right. Picture of white crosses, Blaas, Moorde, in front of on my screen. I page through the report, and I want to share some of the stories with you. These are stories that were compiled and sent to Lex Libertas, to Ernst and his folks, with the idea of putting it all together and putting these stories out for people to know. It's called The Truth Be Told. It's a campaign, and I'm reading from the report itself, to amplify voices that have been ignored, silenced, overlooked, and failed by the ANC in the cruelest way possible over the past 30 years. It's about real people, real experiences, and real consequences. When truth is told, change becomes possibility. I want to share with you some of the stories that you find in this report. I've just opened it. I've just started scrolling through it. I've just read the first 1 or 2, 3 stories, and I really felt that it's important that we get this out to the world, that we share this with as many people as possible. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here, is to take this report that Ernst had sent me and to share some of its content with you, and to urge you to try to get hold of the report, or if you can find and read the report. If you heard that click on that sound on the background, that was somebody else, another South African friend of mine, also sharing with me stories about South Africa. So believe me, I might be very far away from home, but I'm really pretty well informed as to what is going on in the country. But back to the story. Gavin Lewis, he wrote this little report, date 2019 and 2024, location Northwest South Africa. I was attacked and assaulted on my farm between Klerksdorp and Ventersdorp in 2019. Among other things, I was hit over the head with a shovel by squatters who were occupying my land. I also survived a farm attack in 2024 where they held my housekeeper, my parents, and all our workers hostage all night, threatened them and stole weapons along with many other items. During the second attack, they also assaulted two of the farm workers, and then he gives the case number from the police in Klerksdorp, Bergsdorp. There's a story by Elmien Christie. I have no photograph of Elmien Christie. I have no idea who Elmien Christie is, but I know she's a South African, probably an Afrikaner. Might be somebody that's married to a farmer, and I don't know. Anyway, the date here is 2013. The location is northwest South Africa. And she writes, it's a Sunday morning on the Sterkstroom farm. The Stichling couple are up early, getting ready for church. My father, Johan, quickly went to check on the cattle in the field, and my mother was busy in the house. We're not sure what happened first. What we do know is that Mom was charged at and hit with something hard. She tried to block her face, and in the process, her elbow was broken. Dad was hit in the face with an old pickaxe, so hard that his nose was broken and his skull was cracked. We suspected my dad stumbled backwards and fell down the steps outside. There they kicked and hit him repeatedly. The evidence was visible in the bloodstain on the grass. After my mother fell, she was dragged to their bedroom. Attacker one tied her hands in front of her and ordered her to lie on her stomach on the bed, shouting in Afrikaans that she should shut up. Her parents weren't rich. They were honest, hard-working farmers who struggled to make ends meet and gave their best for their three daughters. This nightmare is not easy to tell. My mother shared some of the details, and others we had to hear in court. While my mother was lying on the bed, they kept hitting and kicking her, asking where the money was and where the key to the safe was. She kept begging them to just take what they wanted. At that stage, they must have dragged my father back into the house. Later, we heard that there was a streak of blood from outside in front of the kitchen door all the way into the bedroom, where he was lying on his chest on the carpet. One of his ears was partly torn off his scalp. My mother begged to know if my father was still alive because she couldn't see him, but she could hear him breathing raggedly. Attacker one shouted at her to shut up and told her, "You can hear that he is dying." He then stuffed a cloth in her mouth and brutally raped her, while my mother could hear my father's breathing grow fainter until he was silent. Later, my mother said that she just wanted to get to my father to help him. That was all that she was focused on. She could then hear them moving around the house. When she could no longer hear them, she cut her hands free with a knife. She found Dad in a pool of blood, and he was no longer breathing. She then called to help on the two-way radio, but wasn't sure if anybody would hear, since it was a Sunday morning and most people would be at church. The landline was dead, and both of their cell phones had been stolen. She then grabbed the keys to my dad's bakkie and, with her broken arm and mangled body, drove to the nearest neighboring farm to call for help. The neighbors she drove to were home. One of them was a retired detective who immediately rushed to our farm. He cordoned off the area until the police arrived to collect evidence from the from the scene. Ventersdorp police and detectives provided excellent service, she writes here, documenting evidence and taking detailed photographs. Within hours, one attacker was arrested, thanks to the cooperation of farmers, workers, and police in the area. 3 days later, attacker 2 was also arrested. My mother attended my father's funeral the day after she was discharged from the hospital in a wheelchair. She was still too weak to stand for long periods. Our entire family's life changed in just a few minutes. These emotional wounds do not heal. The attack was cruelty-driven and hate-fueled. It is disturbing that my mother was later able to identify the 2 perpetrators. They were both temporary workers on the farm who had grown up in the area. The whole court process was another painful few months we had to endure. Our children would never again have the privilege of hearing my dad's unique giggle laugh or looking into his soft blue eyes. I would never be able to go herding sheep with Grandpa or walk to the stream with Grandma in the darks. That December, we decided to sell the farm. It was incredibly difficult to make that decision, especially since it was the place where we grew up, where we knew love and peace and abundance. All of this was stolen from us. All we have now are beautiful memories of our childhood. My mother fought very hard and tried really hard to be okay. But she just couldn't, and she didn't want to live without my father anymore. She kept withering away and locking herself away somewhere in her mind. We all kept giving love, and we all wished she could get better again and be the mother and the grandmother we knew. On March 2, 2025, she passed away alone in her bed, in her sleep. I promised myself that as long as I breathe, I will continue to talk about farm murders. Those who don't believe it must wake up and face the truth. This is a reality. Is this what a farmer's life is worth in South Africa? A few rand, 2 cell phones, a pistol, and a hunting rifle. The truth must come out. Enough is enough. God doesn't sleep. The next story is by a person by the name of Sonia Boshoff. And Samantha van As writes her story. Chantal Geldenhuys and Christine Abreu de Jesus, sounds Portuguese, South African, writes their story. I see the name of Heidi Taljaard appeared. I interviewed Heidi, whose parents Dan and Brechi and their sister Elsie Brandt were murdered on their farm in Hartswater. I spoke to them some weeks ago. Christa Toy, Gerard Petersen, Chris Jouwer, Veronica Gruber. It's painful to go through this report. Eljo Bakker. Pictures. Gary Bishop, Anthony Pierce. I think these are very important stories, and I must say I have a great deal of respect for Ernst and what he's trying to do, and I hope he will achieve. Thank you, Ernst Roets, for sending and sharing this report with me. There are many of us here in Europe and in the USA and all over the world, I think, are somewhere read more than 1 million South Africans that had left the country since the end of apartheid, since the coming of the arrival of our new democracy. I guess I'm one of those that never believed that we would come to this point. I'm just scrolling through this report. Thank you for sharing it with me. I will ask Aaron's permission to try to get hold of some of these people, and I'm going to try my damnedest to try to talk to them and to help them help us tell their and our story. Thank you for watching.